Hi, and welcome to the Money Tips No One Told You podcast, presented by First Pioneers Federal Credit Union. Here at First Pioneers, we're passionate about helping not only our members, but our community become financially successful. That success often starts with basic knowledge, things like knowing how different account types work, to understanding terminology, or even tips that make your life easier. The more you know, the more success you will have as you handle your money and your finances. Let's get started. Hi everyone, this is Heather with First Pioneers Federal Credit Union. And on this episode, we are continuing our conversation with Anthony Greco. As a reminder, Mr. Greco is a professor of economics with the Department of Economics and Finance at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. In our last episode, we discussed inflation, and this time we're talking about recession. Let's join that conversation now. So everything I hear, everything that's going on in the news, and of course, and when we talk about things at the credit union, we're seeing the rates go up and what interest rates. And one of the things they'll say is they're doing this to try to slow inflation, but it's probably leading to a recession, or some people would say we're already in a recession.
We are in a recession. It is really, and has been for decades, defined as two consecutive quarters or more of, the output or GDP going down, declines in that. And the National Bureau of Economic Research for decades has defined it that way.
Say again what a recession really is.
Well, a recession, deals with the level of output in our economy, which is measured by an accounting system. When the major account there is called gross domestic product. You hear the term GDP thrown out there a lot of times in news reports. That's our measure of output. So just equate that when you hear GDP output, okay? And so output, of course, affects employment. When output is strong, employment is strong, see? That kind of thing. So they go hand in hand. So GDP is a measure of output. And then when you have a recession, it's when that output level of GDP is falling, is negative, for at least 2 quarters or 6 months, consecutive months. That's the recession. When you have, our output in our market economy is going to go up and down. We have cyclical, I think you've used that term before, cyclical ups and downs. It depends on the level of output, level of employment, level of confidence in the economy, government activity, and so on and so forth. So sometimes the economy is doing very well. And if you want to look at what a recession is, it's basically got 4 components or 4 parts. You have, let's start off with the good situation of where we were. A couple of years ago, we had high employment, we had high output, we were doing pretty well in the economy, very low unemployment rate. And then when that kind of plays its way out, and it usually will for some reason or another, it'll go down. So you get into the thing we call the recession. And then when the recession reaches its trough, a bottom point, or worst point, that's the trough, and then it recovers after that. See, so those are the 4 identifiable phases of the recession. If you want to put it simply upswing and downswing. But the economy being what it is, the capitalistic, pure market economy sort of thing, will have these ups and downs. And they'll be imposed upon by outside influences and things that you can't always predict. In the post-World War II economy, the so-called modern economy, we can identify, and again, this is the National Bureau of Economic Research. They tell you when a recession starts and when it ends, you see. And so they're looking at output, they're looking at employment, they're looking at income and sales. And so given all those factors, they say, oh, this is where this thing started to go down. And then this is where things started to go up. Post-World War II recessions, we've had 11 of them. And I'm not including this one because we don't know how long this one's going to go. See, the most recent one prior to this one was the so-called Great Recession. Maybe some people remember that term. That was December of 2007 to June of 2009. And what we do, which you can find easily in terms of recessions, you can not only see the dates. I won't read them all. I don't want to bore people with those, but the duration, how long they lasted in terms of months, the percentage decline in output or GDP, and then the peak unemployment rate to see how severe the recession was. For instance, in these 11 that we've had, the average has been 11 months for a recession. The average drop in GDP has been 2%. And the average or the peak unemployment rate is the average unemployment 7.6%. Now, to give you the worst case, that last one we had, December the 7th through the 9th, lasted 18 months. That's the longest one we've ever had. Okay? And output dropped more than the average. It dropped 4.1%. And the peak unemployment rate was 9.7%. And as bad as it was, there was one recession, 81, 82, where it was 10.8% unemployment. So again, that's just some frame of reference. We have the ability to, through the National Bureau of Economic Research, measure these recessions, date these recessions, and see the effect of them in terms of the unemployment rate, the duration of them, how long it lasts, and the drop in GDP. So that's a whole study of economics in and of itself, the business cycles and other kind of economic fluctuations.
So looking at those kinds of things is how economists determine, okay, it looks like we're going into a recession, or they can sort of at least try to predict how long it'll last and things like
Exactly.
that.
So again, look at employment, production, income, sales, and mainly the thing is what's happening to GDP. But again, officially the definition, as we've said many times already, forgive me, is 6 months or 2 quarters of decline in GDP. For instance, I know there was some, I might throw this in, I guess this is getting back to inflation, but to show you how sometimes, you can get confused, even the people that are, and I think sometimes they really don't know themselves, but we had a inflation rate of 9.1% in June. Okay? So that meant that prices in June were 9.1% higher than what they were in the previous month. Okay? Now in July, it was 8.5%. So some people started saying, oh, we had no inflation. We had a drop in inflation. Well, that's not true. We still had inflation. Prices in July was still 8.5% higher than what they were in June. So there's you've got to be careful with those kind of things and be careful what people say, because I don't even think they know the difference sometimes. But inflation, we know where inflation is. Okay. The flip side of inflation, which nobody ever talks about because we haven't experienced it since World War II, very, very seldom, is deflation, where the average level of prices will go down. See? And then in the middle, the confusing part is that we call disinflation. That's what happened from June 9.1% to July 8.5%. We still had inflation, but the rate of inflation went down. That's disinflation, not deflation. Deflation, we'd have to go from June 9.1 to a negative change in prices in July, which we did not have.
Right.
So
the rate of increase just wasn't as high as it had been the month
right.
before.
Sometimes people don't realize that, and some people aren't going to tell you that because they want to confuse you with the numbers they throw out there and say you can do all kind of things with statistics and massage them and make them seem different than what they were. It kind of fits your case sometimes. You make them almost do anything you want to do with them.
Right. So when you talk about deflation and things like that, so the prices have gone up on products. What does it take for those prices to go back down? Is that even possible?
Well, that's usually probably not that all can happen all at all. In other words, when prices go up, there tends to be a certain stickiness there. Business firms don't want to lower prices very much because then people are going to expect them to keep lowering prices. So, I think there'll be some probably reasonable adjustment. Maybe they will go down a little bit, but I don't expect to come down to the levels we had before, several months ago. It's just that stickiness of prices, and once they get up there, you don't want to see them come down because you don't want to start this idea that prices will keep falling. We live in a world of inflation, and the level of inflation is not all that bad, really. Because if the inflation is going up a little bit, it means that the output is going up and the employment is going up. We want all those things to rise in a sensible way. See, but you don't want to get around what we've been around. We've been around double-digit inflation, and that's just too rapid, and it's going to always, as it usually does, outstrip the increase in the money income, and means you're worse off. Your dollar isn't going to buy as much.
So as we go into this recession, I'm not sure I know what that means sort of for everyday people. I mean, we're paying a lot more for everything. We're struggling to make ends meet for a lot of folks. What is that going to mean for all of us?
Well, in a recession, of course, sometimes some people lose their jobs, so they get lesser hours at work and so on. Business firms will cut back, that kind of thing. So unfortunately, some people do take a hit. And it's just hopefully a situation that we can get, and I don't want to get too political here, but that does make a difference as who's in charge and what policies they're setting forth. They can have a great impact in terms of fiscal policy and monetary policy as to what will happen in the economy. It's very difficult, and I realize that when you're trying to use policies, basically you're trying to fine tune the economy, and that's not easy because you're not just looking at a fixed target; it's a moving target. Things are changing, see, and so you may put one policy into effect which seems to be appropriate as of the moment, and then it turns out to be the exactly opposite what you wanted because situations have changed. And we have all sorts of unpredictable events that can take place in the economy, some economic factors, some non-economic factors. Even if we know they're coming, we don't know exactly when they're coming, how long they're going to last, how severe they're going to be. We do it after the fact. We measure the effects after the fact, after we've been through it. That's how economics is a social science, and therefore it's rather imprecise because it deals with human nature, and it also deals with those random events that, again, we really can't predict. For instance, this COVID thing, that was a sort of a random event.
It's probably safe to say that the impacts from the pandemic and all of the shutdowns and things that happen have really had an impact on the current economic cycle that we're in.
Exactly. It has a continuing impact. Yes. It's hard to recover from losing that many businesses and that many jobs and that many skills. Of course, in terms of economics, was catastrophic, and it continues to be chaotic at best.
Right. So I guess we'll have to continue to kind of work our way out of this. And have they made any predictions for how long they think a recession will last this time around?
No, I don't think so. Very hard to make these predictions in economics. And so as long as we keep with the current sort of policies that we have here and the current administrations we have here, I don't expect the things to get better anytime soon, unfortunately. I hate to say that, but
May get worse before it gets better, I guess.
right.
Is there a way to sort of prepare for something like this financially?
Well, of course, and it's tough, but I mean, if you save, you should have a prudent policy of saving, and of course that's easier for some people than for others. And then just kind of get used to maybe a whole new lifestyle. Try it for a while, see what happens. I mean, yeah, we have to kind of do it anyway in the recessionary times. But maybe just if you can, adjust your downsize a little bit in terms of your entertainment and the amount that you spend. Be a little more careful of what you spend, save more money. Things like this. I think that and you take more sensible vacations. Things we were talking about earlier. Say, you realize that when times are great, fine, but times are not always great. You have to recognize that these kind of things will happen periodically, and you should be prepared. Get a nest egg out there, and as I said, try to be a little more under control of your expenses. Don't impulse buy so much. When you go to the grocery store, have a grocery list and try to stick to it. And plan your vacations very carefully and plan all your expenditures. I wouldn't say do it on the spur of the moment. Sometimes you do, of course, but I think if you planning is a key word. See? And you, of course, if you can, get together with a financial advisor. And I'm not a financial advisor as such, but financial advisors can give you some insight as to where you should put the money, what you should do with it, and if you have some sort of fund that will automatically make adjustments for you. I wouldn't advise trying to look at the stock market on a daily basis. It'll drive you crazy. You have to know what you're doing there. See, so I'd get some professional advice. Various groups, and I can't name anything specifically for you, but there are various consumer groups and groups out there of people that get together and talk about investments and think about what they might do. So if you could perhaps research those online and get into some of those groups, I think that would be helpful. As they say, two heads are better than one. And if you can get together and get some ideas from people who have done these things, they are very successful people who have, started out with very little and have and just figured out the way to go. See? So I would try to tap into that resource.
Right. And I guess it's when you look at people that are maybe close to a retirement age or something like that, I'm sure that they may have more issues with their investments because if they're losing in their investments, they need them faster. But I guess some of the other folks that aren't so close to that age, they may just need to sort of ride that out and let it cycle back up.
Well, that's because I was just about to say that we have the downs right now, but we do go back up. And remember that the long run trend over a period of years in terms of output and in terms of the stock market, that's upward. That goes through a lot of ups and downs. We realize that, but don't get all panicky right now with your stocks and your 401ks. I kind of hold the line on that because that's going to turn around. See, especially if certain things happen in the next election cycle. See, I think it'll
Right.
be an abrupt upward movement.
Okay. Well, I think this has been really great information. I think everybody is all of our listeners are gonna appreciate this, and hopefully it'll help them navigate these waters a little better.
Well, I
And
hope so. I try not to be very technical here, but and of course you can always do additional readings. Uh, just be careful when you read things. Remember that whenever you read, somebody has a particular slant, particular on things. So kind of read that objectively and with a grain of salt.
right. Well, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it. We all appreciate it. And
Well, I enjoyed it, and I hope it's somewhat helpful. And good luck to you and everyone out there.
again, we want to extend a big thank you to Mr. Greco for lending his expertise to us in our discussions about inflation and recession. We hope you all enjoyed it as much as we did.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Employee Spotlight. My name is Abby Warnke. I am branch manager of the Lafayette branch of First Pioneers Federal Credit Union, and I'm here to introduce our marketing director, Heather Hargrave, and ask her a couple questions so we can get to know her. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for doing this today. I appreciate it.
Good. Oh, no problem. My pleasure. All right, let's get to your questions. There's 3. First question is, what is something that people don't already know about you?
This is actually, people probably do know some things about me as far as how deep my nerddom goes. But I'm not sure people know exactly just how bad it is. People know I'm a Harry Potter fan, and I think a lot of people know I'm a Marvel fan, but it actually goes more than that. My husband and I actually grew up, we both read comics when we were kids. And so now we are into the superhero thing that's happening now, not just Marvel, but DC. And of course, our whole family are big movie buffs. So, it's become kind of a family tradition to go to the movies. And then, of course, we have the big conversations after and break it all down. And, for days after the movie, that's usually conversation over the dinner table. So it's much deeper than just Marvel. And then you add, well, the Harry Potter thing, which I think most people knew about that. And then there's Star Wars. Because in fact, we actually went to Disney a few months ago and spent an entire day at Hollywood Studios at the Star Wars area. And we were just happy as clams, and we all built lightsabers, and mine is proudly displayed in my home office. Actually, if you saw my home office, you might understand the level of nerd. So I said, I'm just not sure people know exactly how deep it goes.
Now they do. Now they
Now
do.
they do. Now they do.
All right. Second question. What are you binge watching right now?
Probably kind of goes with the nerd thing again. I'm actually watching The Witcher, which I found out about a year or so ago. It's actually a video game that my son had played, but we found out that the game and the show is actually based on a series of books, and I believe the writer's Dutch. I'm not sure, but so they're a little difficult to read because there's a difficulty in translation at times. But the books are actually fascinating, and knowing some of the things that happen in the book and now watching the show, it's really neat to see those things. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, last question. What is something that's on your bucket list?
I actually would love to basically sell everything and buy a motorhome and travel all over the country. I want to go to all the states, and I want to see all the landmarks and the things that they're known for, but I want to go off the beaten path, and I want to really get to know people and their culture and why they do the things they do. So I just kind of want
communities.
Yeah, I just want to go meet everybody and see what they're like.
That does sound fun. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have that kind of thing on their bucket list as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Heather, for letting me interview you for your spotlight.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming in and doing that.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. You've just watched our YouTube version of our Money Tips No One Told You podcast. There is also a blog version on our website at firstpioneers.com. You can always find us at any of our branches in Lafayette or New Iberia, Louisiana, on our website or on any of our socials. We're here to help you in any way that we can, and we really appreciate you watching. See you next time.